It was interesting, actually. I was at an event recently, and somebody said to me, that said, "You've been doing this a long time now, haven't you?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Promoting change in education." I said, "Yes, I tried." He said, "What is it now, 7 years?" I said, "Why do you say 7 years?" He said, "Since that TED talk." And I said, "Yes, but I was alive before that. That was just like an incident, along the way." And I've been pushing hard for all this stuff, and I've worked with all kinds of school systems and individual schools and teachers, professional associations, and this isn't to say a theory. I'm just talking about what works. If you engage people's imagination, creativity, if you treat them as individuals, if you have a broad approach to education, if you make it intriguing and provoke the curiosity and promote high standards, that's what works. So there are all sorts of schools. There's one I've been working alongside the last couple of years, which is in Manhattan. It's organised by the founders of the Blue Man Group. It's called the Blue School. That they had their own reservations about the way they were educated, and now they're married and they and their partners have got children, and they thought they wanted to give their own children education that would really focus hard on creativity and the things I've been talking about. So they couldn't find such a school, so they thought they'd better start one. So they have. It's called the Blue School, and it's growing steadily, and I think they do a great job there in Manhattan. That's a private school, and of course that's beyond the reach of quite a lot of people. But there are lots of public schools too. There's a whole movement in the state of Oklahoma and also in North Carolina and Arkansas called A+ schools, which are, although what I'm talking about isn't just about the arts, this is an arts-based program. It's a program of arts-based school reform. It's a whole school program. They work with teachers through curriculum development, and it's a one-by-one transformative process in all the schools. That's a big thing for me, that all schools are individual communities, so it has to be handcrafted. It's the exact opposite of what you see through national reform policies. Rather than trying to promote homogeneity from the top, what you're really trying to do is promote difference from beneath. So it's in that sense, it's a genuinely grassroots sort of process. There's I think, an intriguing set of schools called Big Picture schools, which are, I think they're now in, not just in America, but there are schools under the same banner in Europe and I think now in Asia. And the people who started them have just published a book called Leaving to Learn, which is describing one of the key dynamics of these schools. These are publicly funded schools, which have had great success, and again, it's a very individualized approach, but when kids get in the kind of middle years of the secondary school, they have a program that puts all the kids into working relationships with communities and organizations beyond the school. And the premise there is that if you get off the school campus and go and do real work and real activities, that enhances your education, which of course it does. It's an old principle, and so they call that leaving to learn. And then if you look at the national level, still consistently one of the most celebrated systems is in Finland. And Finland has consistently come out at the top of the OECD rankings for reading and mathematics. And while I think they're a narrow measure in themselves, it's interesting that Finland keeps coming out at the top of them. And America and the United Kingdom, for example, come way down this list, way down, at the bottom third of the list in the case of the US. And what's interesting is that these are the areas in which America wants to excel, but Finland outdoes America all the time, and they don't have any standardized testing in Finland. They don't promote competition, they promote collaboration between schools. They greatly respect teaching as a profession. It's a hard profession to get into, and once you're in it, you're very well taken care of in terms of training and development and compensation. And there's a lot of devolution of responsibility at the school level, to the head teacher, and close links with the community. And it works. That's the point. It works. The thing is, people always say to me then, when they talk about Finland, they say, well, you can't compare Finland to America. Well, not in some respects, because Finland has a population of about 5.5 million and America has a population of over 300 million. But you can compare Finland to a state. And in fact, most of the education planning and implementation in America is at the state level. And there are an awful lot of states that are smaller than Finland. I've been doing a lot of work, it's a good example to me of what you're asking, in the state of Oklahoma. About 7 years ago, I was approached by a group of people from Oklahoma who asked me if I could help them with an ambition, which is they want to become the state of creativity. So I've been working with the state over the past 7 years on a whole program and process to promote innovation across the state in culture, commerce and education. And it's been very successful, and they now are the host to a national creativity forum, and that's also a member of an international network of creative districts. But my principles there are that you have to involve the whole state, you have to involve all the institutions, and it has to be in every discipline. So there are several examples of states who are taking up this banner now. But say, you can compare Finland to a state. Vermont, I think, has fewer than 2 million people. There are lots of states under 5 million. I was in Wyoming recently. I was the only person there, I think. It was just me. I had to lock up when I left. And so what translates are the principles. And like all great principles, like rock and roll, there are certain principles here, and people blend them to their own tastes and interests. All rock and roll bands are different, but they're all doing rock and roll. And it's the same with hip hop and other sorts of music. You can tell that this is jazz, but it's your version of it. And the principles apply. And all states, all schools can do this, not by copying what other people, but by applying the principles in their own situation. And that's what this is about. I think what I'm keen to do is to help to propagate a grassroots movement where people embrace the principles and then work creatively with them to transform their own situation.